Welcome to the Friday vlog.
Welcome to the Friday vlog.
Today's vlog, we're going to be looking at how the idea of working on your relationship actually doesn't necessarily get you where you want to go.
It doesn't.
Thank you for backing me up there, Angus. I was very grateful for that positive affirmation.
You're welcome.
And we spent a lot of time and money working on our relationship, but ultimately what we were doing was kind of reinforcing the idea that there were problems.
Yeah, I mean, there are too many to mention, and I guess if I really sat down and thought about it, all sorts of things that you put me through would spring to mind.
No, I'm the big bad meanie.
But on the subject of trying to fix the relationship, the fixing makes me really believe that I'm going to get really caught up in analysis and get really taken out of the present moment. Basically, do all of the things that probably would lead me away from having a healthy, happy relationship because I get so stuck in my head. The fix it seems to be counter to what we're teaching and what we've learned. Is that
and what helped?
And what helped is it's all about having a recognition of how state of mind plays such an important part of it all. And that if I can just simply not trust my thinking, or put words and actions on that thinking, if I can certainly learn to not trust my thinking and realize that it's all part and parcel to my state of mind, then I'm going to have a much happier life and a happier relationship as a consequence.
Because the fixing the relationship and working on the relationship makes it look like somehow there's a relationship thing to work on, when actually there's two individuals that are relating to each other, and that the quality of the relationship between those two individuals is a reflection of their state of mind and how they're doing and how they're feeling. And so there isn't really anything to work on.
Yeah, there's one thing that springs to mind where we went to a marriage workshop, and with the best of intentions, and I'm sure maybe this is helpful for some people, but there was an exercise in this workshop where we had to pass a heart back and forth, and it's kind of like probably taken from some of those Native American traditions where there's a talking stick. I've been in men's groups, and they pass a talking stick, and no one else can speak when you've got the talking stick.
Right, so the heart was the talking stick.
I think it's like an evolution, yes, but there was more to it than that. I think there was an emphasis on gazing into your partner's eyes in a loving way. It was to sort of remind you that that's what you're supposed to do. So it's almost like that object, that heart, became the fix-it for any kind of challenge that we might be facing. What we weren't taking into account was state of mind. So you or I, or both, actually you, because I'd be quite happy to let that thing gather dust in the far recesses of the garage. But you kind of like, I don't know, maybe you weaponized it in a way. So every time we had a problem, the fucking heart came out. I don't know, I must have made some sort of formal agreement with you, because that's another thing that we learned. If you can't break agreements, that was completely taboo as far as you were concerned. So if I'd made an agreement to do this, which in my better moments, in a better state of mind, I would agree to do, but when I'm in a really distraught and upset state of mind, and you're asking me to go through the talking stick routine, the talking loving heart routine, I just wasn't equipped to do it. So in my head, I would just act out this charade of saying the right things and looking at you lovingly in the eyes.
Well, I threw the heart at you.
Whilst I was getting serious eye strain. You're really good at being authentic in those moments. So you're seeing right through that. So you're really getting more and more pissed off at my inauthenticity. And then I react to the fact that I felt like I've done I've played my part, I've performed my role, I should be rewarded for that, and then all I'm getting is the heart being thrown back in my face. But that's one of those examples where you could like be given a tool to fix a situation that leads you up the garden path away from the understanding that it's all state of mind. So if I don't trust my state of mind or your state of mind when you've lost the plot, better still if I can see your psychological innocence in that loss of state of mind or loss of whatever we're going to call it. But to see and recognize your state of mind has gone south, if I can see the psychological innocence in that, I actually, more often than not, I don't take that personally and can remain neutral, and actually, better still, have some compassion in those moments.
Yeah, it seems like when I would be pulling out the technique of the heart would be like the last time that should be, the worst time that should be used. So something that could be a really beautiful experience, which it really could be, just wasn't helpful when our state of mind was not in a good place. And it's not a issue with the technique. It's an issue with us not understanding the role of our own state of mind and how that was really the problem in those moments, and that it didn't matter how much we did that wasn't going to solve the issue. And if anything, it got us more stirred up rather than less stirred up.
Yeah, it got us much more stirred up in my estimation.
Yeah.
And I lived in abject fear of that heart on where it was kept on top of a shelf or in a box or whatever.
I think I still have it somewhere.
You do.
I don't know where. I can find it though, Angus.
We should definitely find it. It's funny, yeah. But yeah, no, for me, I would get really more stirred up by that because I wasn't being authentic. I wasn't willing to be present. I was just stuck in the fix it mode, or this tool that we've been given to fix, which didn't, maybe, I don't know. I can't recall there ever being a situation where we're in a settled state of mind and just did it because it was a nice thing to do. And the fact is, if we did it when it was a nice thing to do in a good state of mind, we could have got through any challenge.
Yeah, but the thing is, we didn't do it then because we didn't need to do it then, right? There was no need to get the heart out at those points in time. So what we're pointing to is that rather than working on the relationship, if you can really recognize when it feels like you need to work on the relationship, that's a reflection of your mood going south, getting into a low state of mind, and the opportunity is to let yourself or let your partner settle and to be able to address whatever may need to be addressed from a more clear, neutral, settled state of mind. And that sounds so simple and straightforward, but what happens is when our feelings become more intense, we feel urgent and we feel like we need to work on something and we need to do something with that energy, and then our partner often becomes the project, our fix-it project.
Yeah. The other thing that I think it would be good to talk about is just how people are going to think, well, yeah, you know what, my state of mind would be fine if my partner behaved like a normal human being and wasn't a complete ogre. So I think it would be good to address that.
I think it's really funny because you would always say that. If you didn't do this, I would be fine.
Right. And I would say, if there were cameras, if this was a reality TV show, or if this was a reality TV courtroom, I'd be winning the case because they'd see it was all your fault. That's where I would go.
So what's your question?
Well, it's not so much it's not my question because I feel I hopefully I've got some understanding around this now. Is that people are gonna wonder how this is helpful when they're sure that their state of mind would be fine if their partner wasn't such an ogre.
Well, what I see around that, and you can speak to it as well, is that, and you're not that you're really an ogre these days, but let's say
I wasn't referring to myself.
I'm going to use you as an example. But let's say you took on some ogre-esque qualities.
Right.
Then if I was to get destabilized internally, then that's a reflection of my state of mind, because when I'm in a good place, I'm able to see that when you're not at your best, you're not at your best. It's not personal. You're not having a good day, perhaps. And so I'm not destabilized by your behavior if it's not up to scratch.
Yeah.
But if I'm somewhat fragile myself and not in a great place, you might behave in a certain way, and then I'm going to feel more destabilized. So it's never really coming from you. It's always coming from my own state of mind. So the best thing that I can do if you're having a bad day is to make sure that I'm taking care of myself so that I can find my own equilibrium and balance. And then when we're both back in a more neutral place, if anything needs to be worked out, we can work it out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It always back to state of mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just being able to recognise that that's the deal, and see and consider our partner's psychological innocence.
And we don't need to work on our state of mind. That's not in our conscious control. So I think another area where we get caught up with techniques and working on things, if we're not working on the relationship, then we can work on ourselves.
That's state of mind. State of mind.
And really, state of mind is just something that naturally goes up and down, and we will naturally stabilize. And so the kinder we are to ourselves, if we're not in a good place, the more gentle we can be with ourselves. That's the best way to be if we're in a low mood. It's not fixing, it's just how am I going to be with myself as I ride out this low mood experience. And then at some point the mind stabilizes and we come back into balance and we feel ourselves again.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Can I go off on a tangent?
Okay.
A completely random thought, which
Go
is
ahead.
related. But when I was tapping my head,
What?
and I just tapped my head, sort of trying to sort of
Just
find
now?
state of mind.
Okay.
And it's funny because I was thinking this morning how I was reading somewhere something that I think the Dalai Lama had said, or there was a program that the Dalai Lama was involved in. And it was trying to, actually in a sense, trying to create a technique. I don't know, there was a suggestion of a technique to find well-being, or to have this conference for a whole bunch of people to get together, like-minded souls, to sort of figure out how do we find our way to well-being. And I actually thought of this morning. It's funny I did it then, kind of subconsciously. Is that we went to I won't name the institution, but we went to it wasn't sort of.
It was a class?
It was a yoga class.
Yeah.
It was a yoga class, the likes of which I had never been to before or since. And we just had a fit of the giggles. Because we were doing all these sort of really strange exercises that were completely unfamiliar to us. But one of them was just like tapping our head like this. And we were standing there looking at this instructor with like 20 other people doing this to our heads, bashing our heads. And we just had a really big fit of the giggles. Do you remember that?
I do remember.
I wondered if that was perhaps we were trying to sort of knock well-being into our heads. Because you think of yoga with those, maybe, I don't know, yoga may have those lofty aspirations to find that universal well-being. That's maybe what I was doing then.
Well, there is a whole, I don't think this was this class, but there's a whole tapping, freedom tapping, but I don't think that's what it was.
I don't know.
But anyway,
Sorry,
either
I went off
way,
on a tangent completely.
either way, we were, I think we thought it was a regular yoga class, and so we were kind of surprised, but we went to a yoga class, and it was completely different than what we were expecting, so we had a fit of the giggles.
We did. It was funny. It's fun.
So we found well-being.
Yeah, no, actually, it did everything. It did everything and more in that sense. We definitely came away with a feeling of well-being.
Yeah.
It was actually a beautiful moment, you know, and I really enjoyed that experience.
But then we could have turned that into a technique and said, oh, next time we have a fight, we need to do
That's
that.
It's your fault. I can't point when I'm doing that though.
That's true. So really, pretty much everything falls apart in terms of technique and strategy when the mood drops.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
instead of trying to do that, take care of yourself, be gentle with yourself, know that you're going to stabilize, and then as you stabilize, you'll be able to see things differently.
Sounds really good.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.